Welcome back to the Wildly Capable Show. I'm so excited for today's episode. Today we have on Shellee Howard, who is the founder and CEO of College Ready, where she helps students get accepted into their dream schools and graduate debt-free. That is huge. Today we're going to be covering all things relating to preparing your teens for college, asking if that's even the right next step for them, talking about how to gracefully launch our kids into the adult world. And I know we have a lot of homeschoolers, us included, so we're definitely going to cover that in the show. But we're so excited to have you, Shellee. Welcome to the Wildly Capable Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I have just a list of questions. As I mentioned before we hit record, we selfishly are like very vested in this topic because our daughter just started high school. So we've got just a few years before we need to consider these things. But before I kind of dive into all things questions, tell the audience just a little bit about your background and how you got into this in the first place.
Happy to do so. So, I probably did college completely wrong. And I always love to start there because that was my why. I had parents who were entrepreneurs and didn't go to college. And so when I approached them, hey, what do you think about college in my senior year? One of them says, oh, great idea. I think it's really good for you to grow up and be on your own. And the other's like, no, go and get a job like I did. And so, house divided for sure. And that's why I love to start my story because this wasn't always, I didn't grow up in a family of doctors, lawyers, CPAs. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs and they questioned the whole idea of college. So I think it's important that families listening know that I come from a perspective that's a little unique in what I do. So, how did I get started? Many people love to ask. I never planned on being a certified college consultant. Like many of us, we go to college, we pick a major we think we're going to be really good at. And for me, my dad picked my major. So he's like, as an entrepreneur, I wish I would have taken finance. It would have been really helpful for me as I started multiple businesses. Why don't you go and major in finance? I was like, okay, that sounds great. I like money. I have no issue with that. And it turned out that accounting was probably the most frustrating class I have ever taken because they were speaking in another language, debits and credits and reconciliation. And I was like, what has he done to me? This is awful. So I quickly changed my major. Well, that happened 5 times in my college career. And my parents were very adamant that we will pay for 4 years, and that is all we will pay for. And so, again, I found myself in a precarious position of I have no idea what I'm doing, and I don't want this for my children. So now we get to why College Ready and how I got started. It all came from my firstborn. Unlike me, he knew exactly what he wanted to do and exactly where he wanted to go, probably because I was a little obsessive because I did it wrong. And I did not want that for my children. So we started talking about, what is college by the time they were in elementary school, just broadly, just talking about it's not just going to more high school or more middle school. You truly get to pick what you want to learn. And I wanted them to know there was a difference than having to continue to take the grind of classes. And then when we would go on trips as a family, we would go to museums, we would go to all kinds of, amusement parks, and I always included a college just for fun. No pressure, no stress, just like, hey, check this out. Well, it happens to be when my son was in 5th grade, we were visiting family in Massachusetts. And of course, I wanted to see Cambridge and Harvard. I'm like, well, if I want to go have him go somewhere, let's see what the best has to offer. And so I didn't say a word to prepare my kids, and we didn't have a tour. We just walked on campus, and I'm like, wow, check this out. And it wasn't until we walked into the eating commons for freshmen and my son says, Mom, we're at Hogwarts. This is so cool. I want to go here. Like, it was an instant falling in love. And it was because he was a huge Harry Potter fan.
Mm.
And I thought I couldn't have planned that perfect because now college was not my desire, it was his desire. And it changed the whole conversation. So it was truly just an opportunity of, it could have been an art museum with him falling in love with art, or a science museum, him falling in love with science. He fell in love with the education and the opportunity to be highly educated. So, long story short, his dream was to go to an Ivy League school and to become a brain surgeon.
Wow.
So he ended up applying to 12 schools, getting into 11, full ride to 7, got a full ride at USC, and Harvard matched it. So he got to go to Harvard pre-med for free.
That's crazy.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
That is wild.
And that's just number one. I have 2 boys, 2 girls. So their stories are quite remarkable as well. And I like to tell the stories, and definitely not to brag, because I sure couldn't get into Harvard. That's not what I'm saying here at all. But putting the right person in the right place is the most important piece. If it's college, if it's trade school, if it's entrepreneurship, it's just the right person in the right situation for success. And that's what I like families to consider. I don't believe even my own 4 could do exactly the same thing and have true happiness.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's really a individual child assessment. I love that. I was actually going to ask you if Harvard had Hogwarts vibes, because I've seen lots of things on social media kind of comparing the two. I think that's maybe where she got her inspiration. I'm not sure. Um, so let's dive in from there, because that was actually my first question. It's like, how do we even know that our kid is college bound, or how can we determine what that best next step is for each child?
Absolutely. And this is so important, parents. And back in the day, we played out on the street. We knew we were fast, we were slow. We drank from a garden hose. We figured out it was hot because it laid in the sun. Like, there were little things that we were able to kind of test. Now, with computers and technology and social media and all of that, kids are spending less time actually testing their skills versus seeing everybody's perfect day. And
Hmm.
so the best way to start, parents, is let them test their skills. And the best place to do it is serving your community. It's a win-win for everybody involved. When you serve your community, the community wins. When your child has no idea their gifts, their talents, their core values, and what they advocate for, they're a little scared to try that out because they don't want to fail. You don't see failure on social media. Nobody talks about how cool it is to fail. Well,
Hmm.
as an entrepreneur, we call it failing forward. We talk about it as an opportunity to see our blind spots. And so I approach it from a very unique place. And I encourage my children to maybe try things that they were going to fail. And I wanted them to fail at home, that I could pick them up and dust them off and tell them you're going to be okay. And that's the best place to start. And I started that process when my kids were about 2nd grade. That's when they can really tell you, that scares me. I don't like that. Those people are weird, right? We need to have feedback, because the last thing we want to do is put them in a situation that they are terrified. Some children can feed the homeless and find it fascinating. Others, like mine, thought it was really scary.
Hmm.
And so when I tested the waters, I learned, hey, wait, maybe I'm not afraid, but that doesn't mean they're not afraid. And so we start with the premise of, who are you? So parents, if you're listening, write this down. Ask each of your children alone. Don't do it when they're together. And simply, it could be over sharing a frozen yogurt, and say, who are you? And they're going to giggle and they're going to be like, you know who I am. I'm your da 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 da. Other than being my child, who are you? And you're going to be quite shocked. Many of them don't know. And if we don't help them figure that out, how will they ever pick what's after high school? So it's really a foundational upraising. So I did this with my children, each of them individually. And once they figured out they couldn't answer that question, I said, who do your friends say you are? Oh, I'm kind. I'm a great da da da. Wow, is that true? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's true. What does your mom or your dad say you are? Oh, they brag. It's so embarrassing. Like they say da 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 da. And I'm like, is that true? And they're like, yeah, but it's so embarrassing. And I said, well, now do you have a better idea of who you are? And they're like, yeah, but I've never thought of it before. Colleges only want to know who you are. And to figure out what's after high school, you need to figure out who you are. Because if you think being an entrepreneur or a influencer is easy because you don't need to go to college, what happens? How do you build a business plan? How do you understand marketing, financing? How do you understand how to make that grow and support your family? So we'd like to start from a foundational position of who are you?
Mm. Yeah, that's wonderful. And so you're saying you have those questions at second grade. And then what does that look like as they're getting even closer? Let's say sophomore, junior year of high school. Is that conversation being repeated, or are you going more in depth? What does that look like?
So I encourage families to ask the child, what are they passionate about? And they may not know. If you have a student who's really good at a lot of things, it's very overwhelming for them because they've been told, oh, you're good at math, you're good at science, you're good at history, you're good at English, and they're like, what do I do with all of that? If you're only good at one thing, it's actually much easier.
Mm-hmm.
As strange as that seems, but that is. So the first thing we want them to get clarity on is if they had a Saturday, any day of the week, that they had nothing to do, all the money, all the resources, everything for their happiness, what would they do?
Hmm.
And then write it down. And then, as parents, write down what you think they're going to put. And then do just a little cross reference to see, wow, how close were we? And then that's where you start your community service. Starts in second grade, right? Now, if their thing is, I love the beach, I love surfing, I love the ocean. What really upsets me is people who throw trash on the beach and trash in the ocean. You can do some really cool community service with that.
Mm-hmm.
As you're doing it as a family, you could say, you handled that adult really well. Your gift of leadership is really amazing. So as a parent, you get to pick it out, you get to affirm it. And now by the time they're in middle school, they're like, guys, I'm really good at this and I'm really good at that. And I've proven that I'm really good at it and they've affirmed it. So now you get to take it to another level. And that is leading others to create change, right? What do I stand for? What is important? We have an organization that I started. It's a nonprofit called empowereducation.world. And I encourage your families to look it up. It's no cost to join. And why I did it is because teenagers get stuck. They don't know where to start. They have no idea what I want to serve, let
Yeah.
alone what I want to do when I'm an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So we've broken it down to simplify it, and it's student led. So students are leading other students to create the change they want to see in the world. Talk about figuring out who you are. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'll put a link in the show notes as well.
There's something, and I'm going to pose this in a way that maybe you guys can even help me articulate my own thoughts. But and I'm going to say, just starting off, I don't know that I know exactly what I want to be doing on a regular basis. I did go to college, and I went there primarily for sports at the time. That was a season of my life that sports were really important, and I wanted to play college sports, and that's what we did. And then started businesses, and we've been working on businesses, and it's almost like, yeah, I mean, I feel that tension of like, but I could do that, and I could do this, and I could do that. And like that for me is a lot of the fullness of life, right? And I think about that for all kinds of, because again, all kids are different. They may have that desire to be constantly chasing something new, something exciting. And there is a possibility, right, that you, as parents, we do want to lead in some capacity our kids potentially. Maybe you would disagree. I'm curious to know when it comes to something like college, right? And I asked this, or I posed this idea of there's definitely some college degrees that can almost quote unquote lock you into a route, right? If you will, right? Like if I had gone to medical school, and all of a sudden I don't want to be in medical school anymore. Now I have kind of like a big barrier of like, but I made this investment and I feel this like almost like tension of like abandoning that. And you probably felt some of that when you were switching majors, right? It's like finance is great. And you're like, I mean, as someone that went to business school and I took accounting, resonate more. I cannot with those sorts of classes. They were just horrendous for me as well. So I totally understand. Um, anyways, I think about that when we're thinking about putting our kids into college and allowing them to select and pick. And your son was like, I want to be something that I don't even, there were big words in there that I don't even fully remember.
A brain surgeon.
Yeah. That's like, I mean,
That's
that's it.
locked in.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
you've picked, right?
He
Like,
was locked in.
and it's crazy because like that to me is like frightening in a way of like,
Mm.
oh my gosh. Now going for free helps ease that pain a little bit, but like, especially with so many parents having to pay or kids having to pay or get into debt to make this decision, it's a pretty intense thing. And so anyways, I asked that with when we're helping direct our kids to pick a right, we want to learn who they are, we want them to learn who they are, but inevitably it's going to come down to like time to pick, right? And we can definitely help present to them options, but how would you guide them? Do you guide them? Do you just let them go? What's kind of the thought there?
So we actually have a structure. I make it sound like it's a little easy because I want parents to attempt it.
Sure.
Some students, some of your children will listen to you like my firstborn did and go, "Okay, what do I have to do? Let's go." But I remember I have three others. So I
Mm-hmm.
have the reality of not all of them wanted to hear what I had to say. So I start with when I'm working with other people's children, the only thing that I tell them is, I want your dream for you. I have nothing, no other agenda. It doesn't matter to me at all, whatever you pick. And that gives them many families will say things without realizing, such as, well, I'm not paying for an art degree,
Mm.
or I think that that school is da 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 da. I don't even know if college is worth it anymore. So they're listening to all of these things that we're saying, or they hear adults or social media or whomever say. So the first thing that we do is we take all of that away and we say, let's stay in our own lane. Think about it if you are driving and they get excited to think about, yes, I would love to drive. Independence is exciting. And I go, now think about it. Every time you change a lane, it's a little intimidating, right? Because you got to look over your shoulder, make sure not, they're getting it. I'm setting them up. And I say, so if we stay in your lane, that is going to make life so much easier. So now let's talk about you. So let's talk about my firstborn. When he came to me in 8th grade and said, I want to be a brain surgeon, I was very scared that somebody had told him,
Mm-hmm.
you're smart enough to be a brain surgeon. And that's where he hooked on to it, right? So I did what any entrepreneur would do. And I say, let's prove it. And so I took him to Kenya, Africa, and we lived in the slums of Mathare for 3 weeks. And I watched him interact with very, very sick people and very needy people. And what I saw transformed my heart for sure. I thought we were going there to help these people. And my son found a massive desire to serve his community, to open up a clinic for these people who have nothing. Like his desire to be a doctor was not connected to the DR, which is what my mama fear was about.
Mm.
And it was truly, he's like, Mom, we've done community service my whole life. It's just who I am. And I thought, wow, who would have known that community service would have helped him to pick what he wanted to do to be fulfilled? And did he ever question it? Absolutely, he did. There were many times that he had to take a big old test that he was questioning, is this what I want to do? And even after med school, he's like, I don't know, Mom, I don't know. And I said, well, you could go sell pharmaceutical equipment. Like there are still things you can do with your knowledge of the body and all of your medical knowledge. You could be an entrepreneur and we can start a device company. Like there's lots of cool things. So even though it felt to him like he was being locked in, I helped him to see that it wasn't a lock-in, it was a security to what he could potentially do. And knowledge will never let you down. It doesn't matter what that is in, it will always help you to figure out what's next. And so I love the thought of, this is my 7th business I've started. So I am a serial entrepreneur. And because I get a little bored, like most entrepreneurs. But the hard part is if we believe that all of our children are like us, we're going to be hugely dismayed, because my first 2 are nothing like, they think of entrepreneur as like walking on a tightrope. They're like, oh, that sounds horrible. Right. And
They might
so,
be right.
right.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we want a secure job with a secure paycheck doing important things. Right. And so my second 2, totally opposite. They're like, we don't want to have to go to the same place every day. We don't want to do. And so house divided, right? So I encourage families to think of it this way, is just because we think one way and our children think another way, it may feel uncomfortable to you, but that's okay.
Hazelmeyer Goods is doing a last chance sale. We have a few items that we still have limited supply of, limited quantity of, and this is your absolute last chance to get your hands on these items before they go in the vault. Okay. So we are doing a last chance sale. We are selling out of these items. They will not be back. Things like our beloved bread box, which I use every day. We custom designed and had these things built right here in Ohio because I needed something that was big enough to carry like a full sourdough loaf, like a homemade sourdough loaf, and all of the standard bread boxes were too small. So we made it wider. We gave it a removable cutting board up top. We wanted it to have just enough airflow so that the door wasn't sealed too tight. We spent so much time designing a bread box and we only have a few left. So we're running a sale. We have a couple other items in our shop that it is your last chance to grab them. Go over to shoptheh.com. You're going to see a banner at the top of the website that says last chance sale, and go click on that page. You can see everything we have, super discounted, amazing, amazing product that we love. We just have very limited inventory of it left. And so we want to just bless y'all, give you one last chance to purchase it, and go check it out. Go over to shoptheh.com and check that out now. If you guys haven't tried the bone broth based protein powder by Ancestral Supplements yet, you are missing out. It is actually really hard to source quality whey protein, which is what is in most protein powders, which is why I love Ancestral so much. Also, they have adaptogenic mushrooms and an organ meat blend inside of the powder. It is so packed with nutrition, and it's 20 grams of protein per serving. It tastes delicious. They have it in both chocolate and vanilla. You really can't go wrong. They're both amazing. Go over to ancestralsupplements.com/homegrown and then use the code homegrown at checkout for 15% off and get yourself the best protein powder on the market.
I do like how you helped your children, though, make the decision for themselves that they want to go to college. And I think that's really important to almost like drop a pin in, because my generation, the generation before me for sure, and maybe even before that, like for sure millennials, for sure Gen X. I'm not really sure about baby boomers, but for sure Gen X and for sure millennials, it was like, this is the plan, right? The plan is you go to high school, you go to college, and you get a good job. That is the plan. Like that is what you do. And there is no, if you defect from that plan, you're going to be, homeless or working in fast food. Like, right. This is what we were told. And so I'm not trying to knock anybody that works in any of these places, but I'm just like, that's what we were told.
Yeah.
And so I didn't feel like I had an option to not go to college as much when I was growing up. It wasn't as like the idea of like becoming an influencer or like that didn't exist. There was no such thing. There was no, well, you could be successful and provide for a family
Playing video games.
Yeah, that was
streaming online.
Yeah, all of that was just wasting time, right? If you played video games, it was the epitome of wasting time. So I think about that, and I'm like, so number one thing that I love from our conversation thus far is, man, get your kids to make that choice. And I think if I were to ask the question of if college is right for everyone, you'd be like, it's their call, right? They're going to get to a point, but you have to, as a parent, it's your responsibility to show them, to present the tools of building their life the way they want to, the blocks, right? Showing them the blocks. Here you go. Now let's talk about which ones may be a good fit for you, right? And let them tinker. And that's what you did. And you did a great job. That it could be community service. It could be going on mission trips. It could be going to sporting events. It could be going to bring your kid into the office, right? All these things. It's like, how can we do more of that? And, all the homeschoolers are going to be hearing this and be like, amazing. We have so much time to do so much of this tinkering. We can't wait to get our kids out there and explore new opportunities. The second thing I love is that, man, I agree. And I think you've really helped me see that you can really take on knowledge as long as you own it, right? I saw too many kids that would go sign up for a degree because they were supposed to. And then they were locked into that degree and they ultimately hated it and went somewhere else. And I think with what you've said, that's different, right? Your son went into a degree, learned all this medical information, and you're right. When you have that now almost on your tool belt as an adult, should you just have a desire to go into medical sales? Should you have a desire to go to medical consulting, become a chief medical officer at a hospital, going into med tech, right? You could, like, there's so many opportunities available to you that it doesn't have to be entrepreneur. It also doesn't have to be doctor with a practice. And it's everything in between. So, and I think most degrees are that way, and you have to just get creative. And so I think showing that as well is really powerful. So thank you for that, even at this stage in the game. But is there anything else there, even as I kind of unpack that you would be like, oh, Joe, you totally misunderstood this?
No. So what we do at College Ready is we first take a student through a few opportunities. So I'm going to kind of break that down for your listeners, because they may be feeling like, yeah, that's great, but how? Right? So many times we miss the how. So the very first thing that I recommend is helping your child figure out their core values, their gifts, their talents, and what they advocate for. If they don't know, it should be learned just like we learn English, history, math, and science. We have to figure out who we are if we want to stay true to our lane. A core value is embedded in your child by the time they are done with 8th grade. It does not change. And so if you have a core value of family and you think going to college in another country is a good idea, you might want to reconsider, because you are so attached to your family. It may be really hard for you to do that. So when we start with the core values first and we really stay true to who we are and lead from there, and don't get caught up in the name of the school or the basketball team or the view from the dorms or any of that, we can really get clarity about what is it that we want. The second thing is we put our students through a series of assessments that are meant for high schoolers. It's not what adults would take to figure out what they want for their career, because we don't think the same. we've gamified it. So they think they're playing some fun game. And in the end, I'm like, here are the best 3 careers based on all of these assessments. And they're like, well, I've never even heard of those. Because they may not even exist yet. That's the other thing people forget is we're in such a rapid time of change that AI, some of the jobs that are here won't be, and some that we don't even know about will be. And so we can tell a student in 4 years, by the time they graduate from high school, here's the things you need to be ready for. And so these assessments are priceless. After the assessment, then we're like, okay, now we're going to talk about financial literacy. This is something that is missed huge in our society and has been missing for a long time. I don't think it's just this generation. I think it's been a while. And here's what we want them to understand. Do you ever want to move out of your family's home? And one of them's like, yes, when, how quick, let's go. And the others are like, I'm kind of happy here. Like, I'm pretty good. And so I have fun with that. And I unpack, why do you want to move out? What is it going to cost? Where do you want to live? How much will that cost? What kind of career do you need? Do you want to work every day or just every other day? And then do you want to buy a new car once a year or once every 10 years? And they're just like, mind is spinning. They're like, what in the world are you talking about? And what I'm helping them figure out is it's not just a simple put a round peg in a round hole and it's all going to work out. It's how do we navigate that path so we get to choose versus it being pushed on us. And I think that's the different generation of what has happened in the past versus what I believe now is where these students are ready to go. But they honestly, I will ask them how much it would cost to live and pay for their family home, and they have not one concept. And so when I ask them, do you want to be a botanist? Or they tell me they want to be a botanist, and I ask them, that's so cool. Why do you want to be a botanist? Right? I didn't turn them down. I didn't tell them that's stupid. And this one young lady, it's a real story, she said, well, I want to save the planet. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? She goes, well, yes, if we plant trees, we can save the planet. And I thought, so really you love environmentalism? That's a thing? That's a major? Yeah, and imagine if you can open up many, many nurseries, how much of the planet you could save. And all of a sudden her parents are like, yes, yes, they figured it out. But it really comes down to their limited knowledge and them not thinking in a bigger picture. So I just wanted to share that with the listeners because they need to take it to the next step to help their child to either, yes, navigate or help them to kind of refocus with what they don't truly understand.
Do you think the decrease in push that we've seen of going to college has a lot to do with people not knowing how to do this?
Not necessarily. What I've seen, and it feels to people like there is a decrease, but I make a living at helping people get into college, and my practice has grown exponentially over the last 18 years. So it's not like everybody's ditching this idea.
Sure.
But here's the thing. We don't want our kids to do it the way we did it. It's the big reality. And that's great, right? Each generation, we should probably be up in the game.
Yeah.
Our generation, and I'm a bit older, but our generation was told you're going to college. And that was it. There wasn't a lot more than that. So we muddled through it and we kind of got through it, and hopefully it was great and you didn't go into debt. But here's the thing. There were many people who didn't do it great, and they either dropped out or they took on so much massive debt and then they didn't use that education. So like there was some serious ramifications.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why people are reconsidering it. It's not that anybody says education is stupid.
No.
Right? Nobody's saying, if it was free, I don't think anybody would disagree that it would be wise to get smarter.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think
Expand.
where we're having this conflict is we don't want our children to go to college without knowing what they want to do, take on massive debt, and be in a situation where they're not using any of it. And I
Yeah.
personally agree with all of that.
That makes sense. And, this is encouraging me. This is almost like giving me the green light to kind of lean into those little things that you hear your second grader, your fourth grader, your ninth grader say, like, this is what I would do when I grow up. And almost like test it early and often. Like, we've had a daughter who's been like, I want to be a farmer for the last 3 years at least. And I've watched her take care of our neighbor's chickens. And I'm like, girl can hang with some animals. She has such a soft heart for them. She knows, she's intuitive. And I keep telling her, like, I'm going to take you down we want to go to White Oak pastures is where we want to go. I keep saying, like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And I've taken her to different like friends' farms and stuff. And it's that kind of a thing, right? It's like, it's almost like taking their lead and testing it, like you did, almost an extreme version, going overseas for 3 weeks, which
Very
was
extreme. Yes.
amazing. No, I love that. But um having even just someone tell you as a parent, like, it's not silly to listen to your kid's interest. What's going to come of it? Either they're going to go visit the farm and be like, yeah, this isn't really for me, or they're going to fall even more in love, or they're going to be like, you know what, actually I really like this aspect of the agricultural world. Maybe I don't actually want to be planting the seeds, but I want to be managing the operation of the whole thing, right? Like, they'll find their own niche on their own, but we have to put them in the position to figure that out early and often. And that's something I'm really hearing from you, which is like so great, so inspirational. I love that. I do want to move into, because we've touched on this, the financial piece. Um, like, you have parents that are still trying to pay down their own student debt and now thinking about how they're going to finance their kids going to school. Like, how can we as parents even think about sending our kids to school? What are the best ways to finance it? What scholarships, what financial aid should we be looking into? I need to hear all your thoughts and opinions on this one.
For sure. So I have learned a lot for myself in particular. All four of my kids have gone to college without me paying a dime, and they've all graduated debt free. So it's not a one off. My firstborn, yes, he has a photographic memory. Yes, it was a little easier to navigate. But I have three others that are genius in their own right. So I love to share that because I don't want people to think that, it is easy, but it is possible. And for a moment, listeners, I want you to put on, you own a business, okay? You are now a business owner. And I come to you and I say, I really want to work for you. And you say, can I see your CV or resume? And I'm like, I don't have one yet, but I really, really want to work for you. You say, well, let's test it out, but I'll pay you minimum wage. Makes sense so far, listeners? The second child comes up and says, I really want to work for you. And you say, show me your CV, your resume. And I say, it's 4 pages deep. I could do your job in my sleep, and I've proven it time and time again. And this is what I will bring. Which one are you going to pay as much as you can? The one who's going to make your life better, easier, right? We're all adults. We're like, that sounds great. College is a business. So please look at it as such. They need your dollar to keep the lights on, okay? They need your student to be amazing, to come to their school, make it amazing, leave with incredible stories of amazing things, put the diploma on the wall, and start advertising. Are you with me so far, parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a business. So now put on your business hats and think about real estate. Would you walk up to a property, pull the flyer out of the mailbox and go, yes, ma'am, I would love to pay that price? No, you would not. Why would you do it for college? Think about a car. When's the last time you went to a car lot and said, yes, I'd like to pay that that bold price, the sticker price. No way. I don't care who you are. Even if you're a millionaire, multimillionaire, you want a deal.
Yeah.
Why would you not want that for college?
Mm.
So it's a mindset shift that the parent first has to step into. Instead of, I want to say my child went to school A and I'm an amazing parent because I got them in there, and take all of that away, all of the emotion, all of the heartache, all of the stuff, and focus on what is the best academic fit, best social fit, and best financial fit. Now you're using your business brain, right? From there, you build your child's resume. That's it. The big resume gets the big money. So if your child is doing a good example, just like you said, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to start a business, but I'm going to wait. No, 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 no. I started my first business when I was 12. It was highly successful. I wrote about it in a college essay. Do you see what I'm trying to share? Is it's not about running them all over or overwhelming them with just crazy stuff. It's about leaning into who they are and saying, why are we waiting? You want to do this thing? You want to be a doctor? Prove it to me. Let's go to an orphanage, right? And that's what we need. If somebody wants to do something, if they want to be an engineer, what kind? Chemical, structural, box? There's all kinds. Let's go do something so they can have a yes, and they have a story that they can prove it. So that's really what was critical. So for each of my children, well, actually every student in College Ready, I create what's called a standout strategy. This is where they get big dollars, okay? Academically, the more AP, IB, dual enrollment college classes, the better the resume, right? If you're taking the minimum classes to graduate and you're taking the easiest classes to graduate, why would a college give you money? I just want to take it to just a simple business theory. Now, if you're like, I'm doing 4-H because I want to go into agriculture, and I've donated cows and chickens to Shellee's third world country school because they have no food to eat. And I'm starting an opportunity to build food kitchens. And I believe in what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And a college is going to be like, wowza, you're coming to our school. You're going to make our campus great. And we're going to pay you a boatload of money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Different thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can start scholarships right now, parents. When your student is in middle school, they can start applying for college scholarships. Do not wait.
Middle school. Wait,
Middle school.
that's intimidating. What do you mean? Like I go apply for them on their behalf and say in like
No,
6 years they're ready?
They have to apply for them on their own behalf.
Okay.
Yes. And it's an essay. And if there's no essay, it's a bait and switch and do not apply. They're just trying to get your details. But they want to know, when you're in 8th grade, what have you done? What are you proud of? Right? We're just building up little people to tell them how amazing they are. And guess what? We want them to be amazing when they leave our house so they can go and do amazing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Without pressure, with the things they love to do. And then the other piece is the FAFSA, which is the gateway to a lot of money, looks at the second semester of their high school sophomore year. So now if you're waiting until the end of their junior year to start this process, you just cut out about 75% of your scholarship opportunities. So gone are the day when we started thinking about college our junior and senior year. I start working with middle school students, 7th and 8th grade, all the way through college transfers. So it is now. You don't need to wait, but it's not the pressure of what do you want to major in and what college do you want to, that's old school. that's just stress. They shrug their shoulders, they get stressed out, they get embarrassed that they don't know.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. We want to encourage them to be what they think they want to be now. Let's go do it. This is exciting.
Yeah, and I bet I bet in their 8th grade and 9th grade years, because it feels a little further away and not as pressured, I bet they're actually really excited to have that conversation. It probably feels fun for them. They're like, "Ooh, I do want to think about that," you know? They're probably a lot more open, creative, like a lot more creative, a lot more willing to say maybe the dumb thing because they're like they haven't had to really feel the stress of like, I must figure out my career in the next 18 months.
Right.
What does so back in our day, right? The testing was the big deal. It's like you want to get a good scholarship, you better have a good ACT score, SAT score. I don't even know the other tests. Is that still relevant? Are people still working towards that? Is that a strategy, or is that something that we don't necessarily have to deal with?
If you want scholarships, it's critical.
Okay.
If you don't care about scholarships, you're happy to write a check or take on a loan, then only apply to what's called test optional schools. There are some, right? But it is my belief that yes, it may be a little difficult to take a test and it may not be fun, but that's a really good thing you're teaching them about life. Not everything is going to be easy and fun. And so it teaches them so when they get into college, they are going to do better on standardized tests that they take in college. If they want to go to get their MBA, PhD, law, they're going to have to take a test. Even my daughter who's nursing, she had to pass the NCLEX. So if I didn't have her test prep early on, she would have really struggled to pass that NCLEX. It's very difficult. So I tell families, it's not a punishment, it's a gift of learning that will help them throughout their life. It's logical thinking. It's the opposite of ChatGPT, which is just telling them everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing to challenge their brain, to help them to think logically in fast.
Yeah.
And so I tell students who call themselves not great test takers to work with a test strategist. Families, I don't know if you remember Cliff Notes. Do you all remember Cliff
Yeah.
Notes back in the day?
Yes.
I do.
So a test strategist is like a good set of Cliff Notes. Just tell me what I gotta know,
Yeah.
right? So there's ways. Don't have your child sit with an open book and have them self-teach. That's disaster. Who wants to do that? But sitting them down with a good test strategy to teach them how to beat the test, that feels great. Let's do that. That's fun. And I see the value. And then I tell them if they want to do something in further education, it is massively going to help them.
Okay. Well, that answers that question. I do feel like
Did you get scholarships in college?
no, nothing. No,
Okay.
I didn't get anything. I didn't try. I did go to community. I went to the community branches of my school for the first 2 years, which was a cheaper tuition. And then I went to the main campus for the second 2 years. And then I did what's called a 4+1 program, where if you get in, you basically get your master's degree with only one additional year of college instead of the additional two. And I had a scholarship through that. So I guess that was paid for. So I didn't have any student debt because my parents paid for me to go to college, and then I did get the scholarship for my master's. But you had a scholarship through sports?
I got loads of scholarships. Yeah, but my 0% academic.
Yeah, yeah, different strategy for Joe.
0%. I didn't, Shellee. I didn't even take the tests. I think I would have bombed them so hard. I needed like 6 strategists if I was going to do well on this. But to your point, right? At that stage of my life, I just wanted to play soccer.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with anything else, and I was really good, and they paid me a lot of money to come to their soccer team. So that was how I pulled off college,
which is a legitimate strategy. I think sports is definitely a real avenue for funding for schools.
I wasn't in Africa, helping people, but I was, outside doing my, drills. And
now you did do missions trips. Did you guys put that on your transcript?
I did not.
Okay, so that's another thing. So I do kind of want to ask the selfish homeschool questions
You mean
because
like application? You said transcript.
no, like your mom wrote your transcript,
Oh, you mean from
transcript,
like
right?
homeschooling?
Yeah.
Oh, no, no, no. I mean,
So
I have no idea what we did.
here's my question for you, Shellee. As a homeschooling parent, right? I'm the person that writes the transcript for my daughter. I keep track of the classes she's taken and the grades, and I assume these other enrichment opportunities that you've kind of talked about. Is there a disadvantage for homeschoolers who want to be college bound? And how are universities looking at homeschoolers differently from maybe private or public school students? I'm so curious if you have an answer there.
So homeschooling is become more normal. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's a better way since COVID. I believe a lot of people thought their schools were doing a lot more for their child than they realized. And in COVID, when the parent had to be the teacher, they're like, wow, we have a lot of opportunity. I think we're going to go another path.
Yeah.
So I like to, kind of put it in context. What is most important to a university is to figure out who is the child and what have they done to prove it. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter if you're homeschooled, if you are, there's called early college where students could get 2 years of their 4 year degree done while in high school. A lot of my homeschool families have done that. It's a great financial strategy. Really, what it comes down to is what are they doing with the time they have?
Hmm.
So if they're just, hey, we're traveling the world, okay, well, why and what did you learn? So that's more important than is it homeschool or not homeschooled? Is they
Mhm.
want to know on the college application, it says, what did you do? When did you do it? How many hours per week and how many weeks per year?
Hmm.
That doesn't change if you're homeschooled or not. And so I tell parents as long as the student can complete the application showing that they weren't just gaming for 8 hours of the day,
Yeah.
that they've done quality things. And homeschoolers, on the flip side, I've had some incredibly creative homeschoolers whose families have done insanely cool things that makes for insanely cool essays. And so I've seen it on the flip side where it was at an advantage because they didn't have to spend so much time going through
Mhm.
the system. So I can take, and I have taken, I've homeschooled in my program and not, and either of them I can take to any college in the world. It does
Hmm.
not matter to me.
Mhm.
We just have to fill in the gaps, be that, I'm so busy because I'm in school 8 hours a day and now I only have 3 hours to fit it all in, or I have a ton of time and I don't know what really matters. So that's kind of the trade off. But either, I mean, in our program, we've had matching success.
That's good to hear. I was just in a conversation with Joey earlier this week of like one of our advantages as homeschool parents is the extra time,
Mhm.
right? We get academics done faster because it's one on one and or it's self-directed if your kid's old enough. And I'm kind of feeling this tension now as my oldest is just entering to high school. How do we leverage that? Like, what's the best? How do we make this time the most potent for her future? And that's really been on my heart. I don't feel like I have the answers yet, but this conversation is definitely inspiring me in the right direction. And I'd love to hear, like, if you have examples of what people have done or ideas that you have for maybe that parent that's like, okay, I'm ready. I want to do something cool. I want to leverage this time with my kid, but like, where do I start? Right? Like, what's the next step?
To even make it better case study, if you could kind of outline briefly a child and what they want, would be super helpful because I can speak to a ton of case studies. But if you're like, okay, here's the situation. My daughter is this, 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 and this. How do I do this? I'd rather answer that for you versus just some generic, this works.
Yeah.
For sure. So I think listeners would be like, heck yeah, I've got one of those kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you want to hear about our
Yeah.
daughter specifically? Okay, so our oldest is she's always been like pretty solid academically. I've never really been concerned with her. She's very I'm going to say self-directed and
Self-motivated.
self-motivated. Yeah, so she'll come home, she'll get all of her homework done in the first 2 days and then take the rest of the week off before she has her next co-op class 1 week from now, right? So she wants to get it all in. I don't think that she has really nailed her interest yet. I don't think it's largely athletic. She's always been a girl who has sort of like dabbled in like baking, and maybe she wants to run a coffee shop someday, or she really likes the idea of like being creative in the kitchen, or she um I don't I she's my difficult one where I feel like she hasn't said the phrase I want to be X yet, where I've heard that from maybe my other kids. I don't know, how else would you fill in for her?
She's really into fashion, really into her like routine of like maintaining her appearance. It might just be her age. She's just about to turn 15. Let's see.
It's hard to parse through, right? Like what is
Some of the
also
cool things that she's done. So she has done a lot of, she's very motivated by money, I would
Mm.
say, in this current age. So, a family member or close friend may reach out to her because she is a very accomplished person in the kitchen, both baking but also cooking. We sent all of our two oldest to cooking camp recently, which was super fun. But she will get like an assignment of like, hey, I need you to make these pies, and I'll pay you X amount per pie. And dude, she's locked in. And if we haven't purchased the supplies for her, like the minute that she lands this gig, it's like my life is a living nightmare, right? So it's like, she's like up, you know, my shirt telling me like, hey, listen, time to go to the store, time to go to the store, time to go to the store. We get to the store and she is, got the recipe, it's very precise, and nothing else matters until she gets her mission accomplished.
mhm.
And yeah, that's kind of what I would say that she's working on. Is that enough information?
Oh, that's perfect.
Okay.
So the what you're describing is someone who has taken on an identity from opportunities that she's had. She got to go to baking school or camp and she liked it.
Mm.
Remember what I said, put your toe in the water, like let her test it. And if she's now this organization, I'm on a mission to get this done, don't stand in her way. Why are we not starting a business? Why are we not making this happen?
Hmm.
I mean, she can absolutely be doing that right now, but you want her to see that a business is not just all baking. That's a baker,
Mhm.
right? So does she want to be go to culinary school and just spend her time in the kitchen, or does she like collecting the money and deciding, do I want to invest in the do I want to invest? Do I want to tithe? What do I want to do with that money? And this is how you test the waters. She sounds like a very wonderful young teenager with the experience that she's had is telling her, I'm not going to be an athlete in college. I'm really testing the waters with a little bit more of a creative flair, but she's a firstborn, a type A. I want to get it done and let's just go get it done. So to stand in her way would be the worst thing that you can do, and say, no, let's think bigger. Like, let's design our logo. Let's really dive into what's your specialty. Do you see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So allowing her to keep going, because she's going to hit a roadblock at some point that's going to say, yeah, getting up at 4 a.m. to run a bakery, yeah, not going to work out with my sleep schedule. So I think I'm going to do this type of situation. So for every roadblock becomes an opportunity. And so that's what we do with our students is step one, we do the assessment. Step two is we come up with called passion with purpose projects. And I'm just launching right now an entrepreneur project where I'm going to be leading students once a month, where I'm going to take them through problem, solution, how do we get there, And what do we need to do? We're going to create a business plan, but that sounds too scary. So we're just going to take them through it. That's exactly what she needs to figure out. What am I good at? What do I enjoy? Because, right, just because it's a passion doesn't mean she's going to make money at it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we have to caution our children that's like, yes, I love photography, but that's my passion. That's what I do for fun. But my business is this. And so it's okay to have both. It doesn't have to be all together. But in a perfect world, wouldn't you want that for them?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I always want. So I'm like, how do we start with that? And then we look at the end game. If money is not a motivator, then you can't go with that same strategy. And that's why I wanted you to talk about a specific child, because I love playing, we call it the millionaire game. And you might enjoy, would you like me to tell you how to play this with your kid?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So you're sitting at the dinner table and you start with your oldest and you say, we're going to play a game tonight. And there's only 2 rules to the game. The first rule is you can't say that is stupid or roll your eyes or cross your arms, non-verbally shutting down. Okay, that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is, as a parent, you can't go, nah, that's not right. You're not good at that. That wouldn't be a great idea. You have to really hold back from any negativity or opinion, because your opinion, good or bad, it can't be unsaid.
Yeah.
And it gets stuck in there, and then we got other issues. So those are the only 2 rules. Now, here's where it gets fun. They have a piece of paper and a pen, and you start with child 1, and everybody else in the room has to be super quiet. And this is challenging for some children. So if they're younger, I say color, doodle, whatever. But here it goes. If I gave you $1 million cash, if they're not smiling, you have a problem. Okay. They want a lot more money than $1 million. Okay. But for the sake of the game, we're going to go, if I gave you $1 million cash, you had 24 hours to spend it, or you had to give it all back to me. I want you to write down how you would spend your $1 million. And I've had students who would say, I have no idea, no clue at all. I've had others who say, well, I'd buy a yacht, and then I'd buy an airplane, and then I would take 50 of my best friends and we'd travel the world for a year. Yeah, this is real. I'm telling you real examples. Then I've had another student say, well, I'd buy a fixer-upper house and I'd fix it up. And then I would sell it, and then I'd buy 2. And then I'd fix them up. And then I say, what does your parents do? Oh, they flip homes. Okay, you're listening. Awesome, right? The parents are like, whoa, I didn't even know they were paying attention. And so I've had students who would say, I would buy clothes and I would buy a car or mini cars, or so they're going to take it in a zillion different directions. But here's the thing, parents, they're telling you what's important to them. Where they would spend their $1 million is what is important to them right now. And now you build a passion project. They just told you the answer to the question that you've been dying to know. And if they're a fashionista, I figured that one out. With my second daughter, she was a fashionista. When we came back from Uganda, she saw pictures of children with very tattered clothes and no shoes and no panties, nothing. And it devastated her. She says, how will they ever have self-confidence, Mom? Like, this is not okay. And I'm like, so do something about it. And so she did. She went on YouTube, taught herself how to sew. And then she got all of her neighbors to donate gently used pillowcases. She got the yardage shop to donate ribbon. And her best friends met every Friday night and had a pizza party and made little dresses. They connected with Doctors Without Borders, and they sent these beautiful little dresses with these doctors who took pictures and sent them back to these girls. Do you
That's
see
so
how
sweet.
one little idea? She's now a nurse, and how we figured that out is she had a heart for making people's lives better. and she does it every single day and loves what she does.
Mm.
So do you see how just kind of, so tell me why, tell me what can we do with that, will be a great indicator for what's next. And we do this for students in case you're a parent who's like, my kid won't talk to me and they, trust me, like I get it. So we can support you with that if you have one of those children.
Mm, yeah, that was so helpful, and thank you for that sort of like little exercise. My wheels are already turning too. I did want to end the conversation today talking about this Passion with a Purpose project because I was reading through a lot of that on your website. I just found that so interesting, and the way I saw it and the way I'm piecing it through our conversation today is like it is an enrichment that your kid is going to walk into college and walk through the application process with, right? And my question for you was, is it a one-time thing? Is it something we should encourage maybe once a year? Is it something that like, do you have a preferred way to sort of like identify what your kid's passion project would be? Or I know that's probably part of your program, but like walk us through that portion.
So the first thing that I like families to understand is somebody will have the same GPA, better or worse, the same test score, better or worse. So what else you have, right? You could have a sport. I help scholar athletes all the time, but 2% get a full ride offer.
Mm,
2.
wow.
So for all of you parents who are spending thousands and thousands on ice hockey, I want you to know that put towards tutoring would be a much better investment. But you're the parent. I was crazy. My daughter was a competitive cheerleader and my son was a competitive soccer player. And I spent every weekend schlepping the family all over the world to do what we do. And neither of them got a full ride for athletics. They both got a full ride for academics. So just being clear that it's choices we make with the time we have. So with that, because the GPA is what it is, the test scores are what they are, we can't go back and change or fix that. We have to figure out, what can I tell the college for them to pick my child? Again, go back to the business interview, right? If you're interviewing for engineering, you want to talk about a home you built with just a vision. How cool is that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So think about what they can be doing to solidify, justify, and enhance their application, right? They're reading thousands of these applications. They spend roughly 4 minutes per application. Each college will have between 4 and 18 essays. Okay, grasp that. If they have 18 essays at one college and they've only done 2 things, what are they going to write the other 16 essays about? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't panic, parents, don't panic. Most have 4. So you got to have at least 4 incredible things to talk about.
Hmm.
Or else your child's going to sit and be frustrated and be like, I'm never going to get in because I have nothing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And guess what? They're right. And that's sad because there's plenty of opportunity to do amazing things. So you can do it through visual and performing arts, through an instrument. You can do it through a skill. You can, my nephew, he was very into race cars. He learned how to weld. So he would go to the racetrack and fix everybody's broken something, right? Like it doesn't have to be just a certain thing, but it does have to align. So what we do at College Ready is we talk about, here's your academic fit. If you're really good at math and science, you don't want to talk about visual and performing arts in your rest of your application. They're going to be like, what? What's going on here? You got C's in liberal arts and you got A's in math and science. It's confusing, and a confusing mind does not buy, right? So
Mm.
we have to help them create this synergy between the academia, the social, and the financial. the quickest way to a large scholarship, our students earned over $10.3 million last year on top of need-based, is picking generous colleges. That is if you learn nothing else on this podcast, picking the right colleges and having the right resume is the ticket to free. And that is what it takes. So it's utilizing the student. A passion project is just that. Maybe their passions change. That's okay. But maybe they build. Maybe when they're a freshman, they do this little thing. And they're like, wow, that was kind of cool. That was kind of fun. How do I make it bigger? I invite more people. Now I lead this group at other opportunities. Wow, that was kind of fun. Now I'm going to take it to a local or regional. That was pretty amazing. Now their senior year, they're going, I'm going state. I'm going to build this thing out. Do you see how cool that is for a university to read? Here's a child that's going to come to their college and make it amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we started this whole conversation.
Yeah, I love that. Any final questions from you, Joe?
I'm all set.
I need you to tell our audience where to find you, because I'm predicting many people will want to continue to learn from you. So where can folks find and connect with you online?
For sure. So for your listeners, if they go to collegereadyplan.info, INFO, they can schedule 30 minutes with us where we can give them more specific, like I did with your oldest.
Yeah,
right?
That's wonderful.
Because they're all so unique. So I love that's a gift. If you're like, I just want free resources, I'm happy to do this on my own. Go to our website, collegereadyplan.com. And there's a whole section for free resources. We're givers. Follow us on social media. Our podcast is Parents, Is Your Teen College Ready? It's really, is your teen life ready? But nobody understood that. So are they college ready? And listen, because every week I drop massive things you can go and do that week. So it's really about, will your child listen to you? Do you want to do it on your own, right? Do you have the capacity, the desire? And if not, bring your village to you, right? You could do your own taxes or hire a CPA, right? You could. And so I like families to know every one of your children are going to take this approach very differently. You may need support with one and you may not need it for another, and that's okay. There's no shame in that. But just get the support you need for their success.
Yeah, that's great advice. Awesome. Well, I will link all of those important links down below in the show notes. And this has been such a great, inspiring conversation for me today. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's been my pleasure.